Welcome back. Welcome back. Sorry. This is the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio, WFTZ 101.5 FM, Rooster Radio, Tullahoma, Manchester. My name is Bryan Stone, co-host of the show. And for this segment on Bonnaroo Radio, a couple of throwbacks to when Brad Steiner was the host of the show, along with Barry Corder. I'll get you Noah Kahan now, and in just a few minutes, Tyrone from RÜFÜS DU SOL. This is the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio, 101.5 FM.
I don't know. It feels cool to have a lot of people listening to the music and extrapolating their own details from it and putting it into their own lives, and then seeing people kind of form a community around the music is what it's all about. I've been doing this for 6 years, and even when I was playing shows for 300 people, less than that, I still saw this amazing sense of community in the audience and among the fans, and I still see that same community as the fan base grows. And I think that's so cool. Being able to feel like you're creating something that's creating positivity and letting people, vent their feelings to each other and creating conversations around mental health and therapy. That's so cool. So if I can be part, I don't know what part of the zeitgeist I'm in, but if I'm doing anything and people are hearing the music and taking away their own challenges themselves and finding ways to deal with it, then I'm happy.
Well, you mentioned music as therapy. The way that you write is so, I don't know, you're so introspective. It feels like it's coming straight from your life. How much of it is therapy for you to put some of this out?
Yeah, I mean, every song has parts of me in it. And every song is helpful for me to kind of figure out what I'm feeling. Sometimes I'll write things down and I don't even know I was feeling it. And then I read the words. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm depressed right now. Or, I, I am sad and this is sad. And it's cool to be able to kind of figure yourself out through songwriting. So it's always been a way for me to process my emotions. I also go to therapy every week, which is really helpful and allows me to kind of have some clarity and lets me look at what I want to write about next within myself. And I think what's mostly therapy for me is seeing other people feel better about it and feel like I'm making a positive impact on people's lives, which is just so cool and should be the goal of any artist. And that's been what's been the most healing for me, is seeing people find happiness through the music.
I was just saying that we have talked to people before who've said, I wrote a song, whatever, that I never maybe intended to be public. It was just for me. And then it went public and they were shocked and surprised that it resonated with anybody else.
I think it started the first times that I started writing songs about anxiety and depression was just because I was feeling such an overwhelming sense of these things in my life. And then I started putting songs out because, to be honest, I had writer's block and they were the only songs that I had written. I was like, you know what, these songs I don't have a lot of other songs. These are the ones that are about sadness and the things I'm going through. And the response was so cool and so supportive from everybody, down to the label, down to my family, but definitely to the fans as well, that it inspired me to keep doing it. And I always say, when I was younger and I felt like there was no one else in the world that understood what I was feeling, and I heard a Paul Simon lyric or a Cat Stevens lyric, and for 1 minute I felt like someone had figured me out and that someone knew what I was going through, and I felt like I wasn't alone. And so when I sit down to write, I do try to be as vulnerable as possible, and I never think oh, this song is going to come out. But I think, man, if I could provide that little lifeline for some kid somewhere that I got when I was in 7th grade, then I'm doing something important, and the vulnerability is worth it. But I don't make music. I make music for me, but I really do also make it for the fans. I think I'm not writing songs to cater to the fans, but they seem to like when I talk about myself, and I try to do that for them.
I think that's so interesting that you just said it that way, because so oftentimes some of the songs that I love the most are the ones that crack the code in words that I wasn't able to put together. But then there are ones like Stick Season where you put me into this world that was yours. You transported me from my life and dropped me into the middle of yours. And now I'm experiencing everything that you're feeling. And that is I love it so much, but I'm sure it could freak some other people out. But that's the way that I feel about it. It feels like it's something that you literally were writing for someone to walk around with you and see.
100%. Yeah. When I tell people I'm from Vermont, they think I'm from Canada, and they don't know where Vermont is, and they don't know anything about it, or they think, Bernie Sanders and maple syrup, which are actually very big parts of being in Vermont.
I was going to say maple syrup. That's so funny.
Yeah. And when I was growing up, I would listen to Gregory Alan Isakov, and I felt like I was in the 1800s in Europe, traveling around. Or I would listen to Paul Simon, and I would feel like I was in New York in the 70s. And I I love being a part of other people's worlds. My favorite TV shows, my favorite books are these like immersive world building experiences. And I really did think going into this record about trying to show people what it was really like, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly, about being in Vermont. I wanted to bring people to a different place. You know, like I said, my favorite thing about music is feeling like I'm being transported. Phoebe Bridgers, particularly the new Sam Fender record, does a great job of that.
Yes,
Making you
it
feel
does.
like you're
That's
in this person's life, in their neighborhood. And, you know, my story is obviously a lot different, but I'm still from a place that not a lot of people know about and not a lot of people have experienced. And I was desperate to show people that place.
He is a closing headliner on the What stage Sunday night. He is Noah Kahan, and he sat down, well, via satellite, as they used to say, with Brad Steiner and Barry Corder just a little over 3 years ago. This is the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio.
It's very interesting that you're writing it for a locale, considering, well, let's put it this way. What does the next album starts feeling like? Are you you're not going to take someone on another vacation. You're probably going to, you know, maybe it's seasons next. Maybe it's outfits, you know,
Sufjan Stevens.
Yeah,
Sufjan
Stevens did this.
An album about every single state in the country. And I think, I'm not sure how many he got, but I'm trying not to set a giant endeavor for myself. But what's been really cool about this record is some of the songs feel like they have a larger story to tell. I think about a song like Orange Juice that feels like it tells a story about a moment in time between two people. And I've thought a lot about of expanding those stories. You know, maybe they go beyond New England, maybe they don't. But I've thought a lot about expanding on some of those stories. And, you know, I've tried very hard to not write about New England and to write about different places, but I keep getting dragged back to it somehow. So I have a feeling there'll be some New England imagery in the next project. And I think it's a really interesting place, and there's more than enough material to write about for the rest of my career in Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts.
Well, I mean,
maybe we'll count Connecticut.
It's obviously very defining for you as a human being, though.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. It's like it has a gravitational pull.
Well, it's also probably the most troublesome relationship that you've been in your life. You know, it's definitely been the longest.
Yeah, it's been a back and forth for sure. I've moved a couple times, and I keep coming back.
Are you still in Vermont then, huh? Are you in Burlington?
I'm in Watertown, Mass. But yeah, I was living in Vermont throughout the pandemic and then moved to Mass with my girlfriend. And now we're a little bit closer to Vermont, which is nice. I was in New York for a while. And I don't know, there's something about New England and the cultural identity there that really feels right for me.
When you write this personally, if you don't mind, is there a song on there that is almost too personal? The one that's probably hits way, way, way closer to home than you even imagined?
Yeah, I think Orange Juice is pretty personal. Just a lot about my struggles with addiction and you know, addictive behaviors, as well as addiction throughout my family and then in my friendships. And then also it's a song that I had to dig deep into kind of these unreconciled friendships that I have in my life. That was really difficult. You know, I put it into two different people. The story is not about me, but there's all of me in it. And so it required a lot of kind of truth finding within myself, which was hard. And it was one of the only songs. There's another one that I haven't released yet that feel like really personal. And like I have a hard time playing them because it makes me feel like I'm back in that space of when I wrote them and kind of, but also I find that the things I want to do least, like therapy or like singing about things that are personal to me, are the things I need to do the most. You know, just today, not to bring it back to therapy all the time, but I remember I almost sent my therapist a text like, yeah, can we just do next week? And I'm like, if I don't want to do this right now, it probably means I should be doing it. And so when I think about releasing a song like Orange Juice or, you know, a song like Howling, I find that the tension and the discomfort I'm feeling is usually an indication that it should be in the world and that it's something important for me and the listener.
His ascension to headliner status has been something to see. He is Noah Kahan, joining the What Podcast about 3 years ago. This is Bonnaroo Radio 101.5 FM. During that conversation with Brad Steiner and Barry Corder, we all found out together that wasn't going to be Noah Kahan's first appearance at Bonnaroo, though he had not been on the schedule before. Well, how does that work out? This is the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio.
I went to Bonnaroo 3 years ago when my first record came out, and it was like the most communal, awesome experience ever. Like, these festivals can be so toxic and shitty. Like, I don't want to talk shit in any festivals, actually. I probably shouldn't do that. But Bonnaroo was an incredibly cool environment. It was so fun. the vibes were so good. People were so kind. You know, everyone was obviously like doing a bunch of drugs and stuff, but like people were still cool, kept their cool, and were kind and supportive of each other. So doing Bonnaroo is a dream, man. I can't wait. I wish I could stay there and camp the whole weekend. But
wait, I don't mean to interrupt, but did I mistaken? Have you done Bonnaroo before?
Yeah, 3 years
I
ago.
did the Super Jam. Yeah, I did the Super Jam with like Grizz and Rainbow Kitten Surprise and Hobo Johnson.
How did you get onto that? Who called you for that?
Dude, the Illuminati put me in. I don't know. I'm not supposed to talk about it. No, I've been applying to Illuminati for 4 years. They won't let me in. My management, the Super Jam is kind of like one of those places where if you're not like a fully developed artist or you don't have like a bunch of records, like they can kind of put you on for the night and like get you in front of some people, in front of the bookers and everything. And so I did Super Jam. So nervous. I sang the whole song in the wrong key. It was like with this full band behind me and I fucking blew it, but it was so cool. And it's like the energy at Bonnaroo is incredible.
All right, but you didn't have a Noah Kahan set at Bonnaroo.
No, I didn't. The Noah Kahan set was me trying to find my way to the bathrooms when I was too shit-faced at the Artist Village.
So you practiced at the Holiday Inn in the convention center. We've sat and listened to that practice year after year after year, waiting for our credentials. What song did you screw up? What do you think that you messed up?
I did Wake Me Up by Avicii, and I don't know, man. I was one of those things where you have so long to wait where like all you can do is get more nervous and like drink more like beer. And so I was like just getting like drunker and drunker and more dehydrated. And like by the time I was on, I was like completely uninhibited by how nervous I was. And I was just like singing and I was like, I'm in the wrong key. There's a teleprompter and I was like trying to focus on that. I don't think it was as much of a disaster as I'm making it out to be, but it definitely wasn't my brightest moment on stage.
Noah Kahan on the What Podcast with Brad Steiner and Barry Corder just a few short years ago. Transitioning to another ascension to the What stage, Tyrone from RÜFÜS DU SOL talks about the rise in popularity of his band. This is the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio.
Yeah, it's changed so much for us, like in a real positive way. I mean, we're hard workers. We work a lot, probably workaholics. Like we spend a lot of time making music, and it just forced us to slow down a bit. And I don't know, it was a really nice reminder of the fact that we're friends. Like we're three guys that are in the band, and we're best friends. We love making music, and it was a good pause for us to kind of reset and rethink where we wanted to go. And I don't know, we changed the way we write too. Usually it's like in the past, it's been late nights throughout, till the morning, just following the creative train, hoping that a song kind of is born out of it. And this time around, we just, we had more structure. We did more of like a 9 to 5, only it was 11 to 7 for us to skip the traffic. And
still not waking up early, are you? Still not gonna wake up early.
Well, I am. I'm a dad, and I've got a little 2.5-year-old son, so wow. I'm up at 5 at the crack of dawn.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. Yeah, that's nice.
This is what I kind of wanted to get at, because you said 11 years, and you guys started in Australia, and now you're in Los Angeles, right? And you're got a child. What's that transition been like? I mean, I know I was reading a little bit, especially about the property where you recorded your first album, right? Sold for a nice little bit of change back in Australia, right? Because apparently they sold it as the place where RÜFÜS recorded, right? That's kind of funny. But what's it like going from that to where you are now, as far as like a band? What's that transition been like over the years?
I mean, it's surreal. I mean, I think when we started out, we had dreams and aspirations that were far smaller than they are now. Like, in Australia, we grew up in Sydney. So it was like to play the local kind of live venues there. And then as you kind of grow, our goals and the goalposts shifted, and it's been like a steady climb. And I don't know, I guess the biggest transition has been the last 2-3 years where I'm a dad now, I'm married, and we as a band, like if we were to sustain the way we were going, like we had to change some things. This was just like so many shows, and we were running ourselves into the ground, and it was compromising the quality of the shows. And I don't know, it was also just like pushing each of us as friends further apart. And so it's just been like a nice reset that wasn't easy. It wasn't like the last 3 years haven't been easy. It's been difficult. And I feel like we're reaping the rewards just in terms of our friendship and the music making and me just being a dad too. Like I didn't know, I wouldn't have known what I was missing out on. I would have been on the road being like, yeah, I'm a great dad. And, I wouldn't have known any different. And realistically, I wouldn't have been in my son's life nearly as much. And it's been a big gift that I get to wake up next to him and, like hang out and then go make music with my friends.
You said it started about 3 years ago where you sort of realized you needed to do something. Was there an event, or was it, was there one night where you kind of blew up at each other, or could you see it coming and then COVID hit and it gave you the chance to fall back and rethink?
It was kind of a shitstorm that was growing. It was kind of all directions and all things were coming to a head where, things were really exciting for us. A lot of exciting things were happening, like, playing a bunch of festivals in front of a lot of crowds, like big crowds. And, I think just you inherently as an artist put pressure on yourself to create new things and make new music. And we weren't really getting that time. And when you're touring so much, you're like, your personal lives kind of pushed to the side a bit. So in terms of becoming a new parent, for me, that was really difficult. And I know for the guys too, it was really hard. So it was an accumulation of a lot of things. And then just having been in a band for 10 years, or I guess 9 years at the time, I think you just undergo change in that time period. Like we were early 20s when we got together, and now we've entered our 30s. And I don't know, I think you just change and evolve, and priorities change and shift. And it just gave us the time to kind of talk to each other and reset the clock and come at writing from a different perspective. And I don't know, I just feel like great things come out of doing that.
This sound, you're not talking to somebody who knows what he's talking about when it comes to this. No, so bear with me for a second. But when you were a kid and you were playing around and saying to yourself, I want to make a band, I want to do this. How did you stumble upon making electronic music? How did you find that world instead of how a kid would normally just pick up a guitar and start writing songs like that?
Well, honestly, that's where I started, was with the guitar. I started on piano when I was like 5, and then kind of moved into playing in bands when I was 12. And I always just wrote music kind of from 14. I used any software I could get my hands on and just recorded more alternative kind of, I guess like acoustic, just songs really. Yeah. And it was just fun for me. And the three of us produce and write the songs, and we all have a different story as to how we ended up making the songs we make.
Sure.
But for me, that was it. And I met one of the other guys, and he was making more club music, I guess. And we kind of met in the middle, and we were like, oh, you guys, you like Book of Shade? And there was a few acts that we bonded over, and Chemical Brothers, oh, cool. Yeah, I like that. And then we just started making some songs, and, we would share our production tools with each other. And there was a healthy push and pull, and there has been between all three of us in terms of where we want to take a song. And that, for me, I'm probably more influenced originally by rock or, and John probably more so like club songs. He has an appreciation for pop and everything. And James, he's kind of, he loves all music. He's
polka. It's polka, isn't it? I know it.
He's the glue. He's the glue.
For somebody who's actually done this overseas and in America, can you tell a marked difference between the European festivals and the festivals overseas than American festivals? What is the difference for you?
We haven't done so much in Europe. I mean, we've done a lot of stuff over there, but we haven't played many festivals over there. In Australia, I could speak in terms of Australia, they're quite similar, really. I mean, it's just that Australia's a lot smaller of a market, not in terms of land mass, but in terms of population.
Sure. Who's your favorite Australian artist?
Australian artist? Tame Impala.
Okay. I was hoping to say Courtney Barnett. It's amazing how many Australian artists have exploded over the last 10 years, right? Whereas before, there weren't, I mean, it just was not a fertile ground of art bands coming out of Australia, and then out of nowhere, it feels like every time I turn around, there's another Australian band making, some sort of noise.
Well, that's true. Courtney Barnett is really amazing. She's such a good storyteller. And there is just so many great acts that are coming out of Australia. I don't know. There's a nationwide radio station in Australia called Triple J, and it's like an alternative radio station that you can hear, hip hop to heavy metal to something more poppy to indie rock and roll. Yeah, and it's just like the full spectrum. And I'd say for the most part, that's what, if you're growing up, that's what you're listening to as a kid. And so I think a lot of a large portion of Australians are growing up listening to a wide variety of music. And I don't know what that does for a brain or like your taste in music or how that affects your influence in terms of what you want to write. But I think that has something to do with it.
Tyrone from RÜFÜS DU SOL on the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio. This is Rooster Radio 101.5 FM. It is a Bonnaroo Radio takeover. My name is Bryan Stone, co-host of the What Podcast. Thrilled to be asked to be a part of the programming for the triumphant return of Bonnaroo Radio at the What Podcast on all social media. We do this show year-round, so we're always looking for different stories, different people to talk to, from operations, administrative, past and present performers, to anybody who has a Bonnaroo story. For the next 20-plus minutes, you will hear from the Director of Festivals and Strategic Initiatives for C3 Presents. His name is Tim Smith, better known to those in the industry as simply Tuba. This is the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio.
I've got a program in my alma mater that I put together, and the premise of it is just none of the careers that are in this industry are in any guidebook and in any, like it doesn't exist. But at the same token, you can be anything in the entertainment industry. You want to be a doctor? Well, you can be a rock and roll doctor. You want to be an engineer? You want to be an electrician? Like every single career and trade is represented in this field, not just festivals, but TV, radio, sport, so there's a ton of opportunity there. And just trying to make the younger generations aware, I mean, this for me being, whatever it is, 27 years old now, the beard is gray. I've turned into the old guy, as much as I like to not think that, but
we all have in somewhere or another.
Right. And so, but, getting more people into the industry is something that we've all got to kind of do and work on. So I'm always happy to do whatever I can to help get students opportunities and awareness, and really it's just get your foot in the door, go sling t-shirts, for merch, go volunteer,
street team kind of stuff.
Just start. I started as a stagehand in college. I'm pushing boxes, and that's where I got the bug, and some people start as a runner, but everybody started from somewhere, so I think, not to be scared of the process, essentially.
Since we're starting here, this was at the bottom of my page of notes I made. Let's stick with it for just a second. You talked about your initiative, for lack of a other word I can come up with, the KU Leap. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, the live event accessibility program that you started in 2018, according to your LinkedIn. But I wanted to make a note of that because last year there was so many students. And I hadn't noticed that before. And if they had been there, I'm sure they have, but I hadn't noticed it to the level that it was. There was MTSU, maybe Tennessee Tech. I'm not sure how many other schools. And I thought that was just a really, really cool thing because damn it, I wanted to do something like that.
I didn't have it. I fell into it. I had a guy jump out in front of me. He's like, "Hey, you want to work at this theater?" I'm like, "I don't know anything about theater."
Yeah.
So,
If nothing else, I just wanted to have the access to hang out with people like
That's my point.
you and maybe else and others. And even if it didn't turn into a lifelong passion project and or career, it certainly would have been neat. So that was, if you just speak to that initiative you put together and how that's worked for you.
again, that was just born out of, I'm like, how do we just raise the awareness for this? So, I'll go back to the university at least once every semester, to go just speak to a seminar, that we'll put together. Some of my best friends there still work at the theater that I got my start at, and so they're happy to host. And we try to bring in other folks from the industry to kind of speak and talk about their journey. And then the students can apply for an immersion experience, and what that is all expenses paid. We'll bring them up to Lollapalooza for probably 5 days. And it's kind of it's a little bit of a curated experience that way, to have them come up and see Lollapalooza and talk to all of our amazing staff. They probably talk to 35, 40 people throughout that weekend, and get to see the festival, and just really understand what the industry is about. So, I donate some money to KU Endowment, and then C3 is gracious enough to match that, since it's a nonprofit. So, it's fully funded that way, trying not to make sure we don't have a barrier to entry of your economic state. We want to make this open to all. So
Were you the driving force to do more of this student involvement with Bonnaroo specifically, or just portion?
No. I mean, Bonnaroo's always had a great history around this. Like you said, with MTSU, Belmont is another one that does a lot. Bonnaroo's always been there. To the degree for Bonnaroo, I just try to pour gas on the fire and see how we can enable that better. Jeff McCluskey, that's where we kind of got our touch point with Jeff McCluskey. Jeff does, we've now rolled out his program, Festival University, to, I think we're at half a dozen festivals now, and looking at more that we can do. Just trying to get more opportunities out there.
This is why I wanted to start here, because it's a passion thing, right? I mean, Corey and Brad, who've both been on this show, they started the same way. I basically started my career in journalism because I found out I got to go do festival or concerts.
It's a really common story, and I got a lot of that too.
Right.
Or the failed musician, right? I can't make it doing this, so I'll do this. I'm a little of both.
But
right.
You find out you get to hang out with musicians, right? You get to go to events. You get to go do this type of thing, right? It's
a different world.
It's saying this is the way in.
Talking with Tim Smith from C3 Presents, the producers of Bonnaroo, about the best ways to get into the music festival business. This is the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio. But Tim was quick to make sure we understood it's not all just fun and games. It's not all just seeing your favorite bands. It's a lot of hard work.
We're trying to paint a real picture of it though too. Be like, look, it's hard work, and this isn't all, rock and roll and just watching shows. That's surprisingly, that's very little of what I do anymore, is see shows. But I think, it is real work, but it's that age old adage of, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Well, that's a good jump off. When did it change? When did it quit being, hey, I'm schlepping speaker cables for, my favorite band, to I haven't seen a show in forever, and now it's work. When did that change for you, and were you happy with that? What I mean?
I think part of this is just, I've been in the industry so long, and I've just seen a lot of shows, and so it's one of those, like, I love the Foo Fighters, but man, I've probably seen those guys 30 times, so I think that's part of it. And just, also, You know, a lot of my role has been around, you know, safety and security, and trying to see a headliner set or something. It's like that's usually when we're looking at egress and trying to make sure that we've got the outbound, you know, teed up appropriately there. So, but as far as an inflection point on that, I don't, you know, it's kind of been a slow process, you know, but I think that's the other message for the young ones to come in. It's like, you can certainly be passionate about music and entertainment, but that's not a requirement. You know,
Yeah, be
there's
good at what
still
you're doing, right?
Show up.
I mean,
Show
again,
up.
I still love what I do every single day, regardless of which show I'm involved with. So
His nickname is Tuba. His legal name is Tim Smith, and he joined us in the 2025-26 Bonnaroo offseason. Who is us? Well, us is me. Wait, what? Sorry, I'm confusing myself. Established in 2018 by Brad Steiner, Barry Corder, and Russ Jackson. You might know him better as Lord Taco. Later now hosted by Barry and I. That's where I come into the mix. Bryan Stone. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Bonnaroo Takeover of Rooster Radio 101.5 FM. And if you spend year-round dreaming of the farm, or at least reminiscing on past years you've had or missed, this show just might be for you. We talk a little bit of anything and everything that involves Bonnaroo and other things in pop culture and the music festival landscape. Watch on YouTube or Spotify, or just simply listen anywhere you get your podcast. I can speak for Barry and Lord Taco and tell you we are thrilled to be a part of the Bonnaroo Radio Takeover on 101.5 FM. Speaking of what you do every single day, Tuba Tim Smith, your legal name, Director of Festivals and Strategic Initiatives. What does that mean?
Fancy title that means, you know, I'll catch whatever darts are thrown my way.
Logistics,
So
essentially. Is that a
it's,
one word
you know,
answer?
uh, that's
Maybe
a
not.
good question. You know, now you're forcing me to try to think through it. So you know, so I'm directly involved in three festivals, which is Bonnaroo, Sueños up in Chicago, and Lollapalooza. So I'm either the festival director or the executive producer for those three. But then I also have oversight of all of our brands. So that's including some of the internationals. So the reason for that is because of kind of the organic evolution of C3 and how you know, C3 has grown, and we've, you know, like with Bonnaroo coming into our portfolio, AC Entertainment, you know, the Brads, the Coreys, the Brian Bensons kind of fold into our mix. So we've got these different components, and it's my job to make sure that we're putting the components together in a way that gives us, you know, a standard. You know, standardize is a bad word for it, but just a minimum standard for how we produce our events, and that's everything from, you know, the nuts and bolts of gates and restrooms and things like that, but also down to, you know, we've got a process when it comes to doing on sales, and we've got a process around, you know, just how we operate the company. So, and that just gives us, you know, better information to be able to try to make decisions and try to see market trends to be able to follow, and try to just improve the experience and the product for the customer and the fan. So
If I were to compare it to a sports environment, it sounds a lot like just kind of like the general manager of
yeah,
a sports team. They have to deal with salaries. They have to deal with the ticket takers. They have to deal with the field you know, the landscape of the field, like a little bit of everything. That's kind of how that sounded to me. And so maybe a
yeah,
simple answer is just general manager of all things festivals, it sounds
yeah,
like. And
yeah,
that's a long list, right? I mean, that's a long list.
yeah, you know, but at the same token, like I really believe that, you know, C3's got the best in the business, and so I can't take much credit. I'm just trying to help guide and just try to
Sure.
enable everybody to you know, do their job in the best way that we can. So
Along those lines, and this is where I wanted to go. So things like ticket taking, website, uh, you know, safety, those things I assume can be pretty similar for events. How much do you have to worry about Lollapalooza being different than Bonnaroo from a fan experience? And I'm thinking like lineup or whatever, or can they be, you don't want them to be identical, right? You want different experiences. So where does that sort of change? Does that make sense?
I think I probably slipped up by saying there's some templatization to this, because it's really a matter of respecting the brand and respecting the fans, and Bonnaroo and Lala and ACL have been around for a long time.
Yeah, institutions, right?
Yeah, and so we need to we need to factor in the past and respect that, but also try to make these brands relevant for today's market and today's fan. And so being responsive to that and respectful of that, I think is the key piece of that. So and that goes into new brands that we're starting, the Railbirds of the world, the Ocean's Calling, See Here Nows, those brands. It's like, well, what's the origin story for them? They're at the starting line. So how do we make sure it's not just hey, we got stages in the field that are going to have a band? It's like, what do you feel when you go to these events? What do you take away from that? Because that's ultimately what people want, is the experience.
Well, the biggest thing you've done that we can, noticeably tell, and we heard you talk about last year, we'll get to the specifics, but is infrastructure with the farm. And there's been a lot of changes over the years. But if you didn't know any better, and you had a kind of an Instagram aerial view, right? Like, you wouldn't think this isn't that much different. It isn't that much different. But from bathrooms, flushable toilets to the throwing in more asphalt, where paths were dustier and earth. A lot of times people don't want their sacred land messed with. Everybody's pretty happy about the bathrooms. Well, I think we can all agree on that. But and you came in under this title in 2019. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I've been with C3 since I was a contractor before 2013, but I took full time in 2013 with C3, and then first touch point was 2015 with Bonnaroo. But that was just kind of coming in and trying to just learn. And I've been a close friend and colleague with Steve Feener, who is the festival director on the Superfly side for years, and he's one of my mentors. And so so that was really kind of that first touch point with Bonnaroo.
Well, my question was going to be mostly around the fact that if 2019, a lot of changes on infrastructurally are happening, and then 2020 is the ultimate change for everybody. This is the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio, 101.5 FM in Manchester, Tennessee. Whether you're on the farm as we speak, or sitting in your living room in Middle Tennessee, or listening online somewhere, anywhere in the world, we thank you all the same for joining the show today. When Live Nation took over 51% controlling interest in the Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival, C3 Presents replaced AC Entertainment and Superfly. That's where Tim Smith comes in, who is our guest on the What Podcast and right now on Radio Bonnaroo. And as that happened between 2018, 19, and 20, well, we all know what happened at the turn of the decade for all of us. And no, we're not talking the Squarch just yet, but hang with us because we will soon enough. Our guest is Tim Smith, Director of Festivals for C3 Presents from the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio.
Let's go ahead and say it. Come on now, bring it up.
I wasn't quite going Squarch yet.
Come on now, let's go ahead and get into it.
We'll get there.
But what kind? I mean, that must have been a wild time. You're making changes because that's what you're going to do. As far as I'm talking changes like just aesthetically, and then the 2020 thing hits us all, and everything's now changing. Every industry is pivoting just because they can, for right or wrong, better or worse. That must have been a wild time too, because you were given maybe even more opportunity to make change, because at that point, no one was going to complain. They just wanted their Bonnaroo back.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that, full transparency, with Bonnaroo, like that's one of the greatest challenges in my career. just because there's never been a handoff of a major brand. So essentially what happened in that time period is that C3 stepped in and AC and Superfly stepped out due to the acquisition that way. So and that's never happened. There's no guidebook for it. Like how do you hand off a major music festival that way? And
one of the most unique ones in the world, by the way.
Yeah, and one of the best. So it's like and so that that prompted me to ask a handful of questions of just how do we go about this? How do we what can we do to improve the fan experience here? And that goes a bunch of different directions, especially with Bonnaroo, of just how do we what things that I may see, not being a lifelong Bonnaroovian, that I'm like, oh, it's hot out here, we got to fix the heat and it's dusty, and I pretty quickly realized, I'm like, everybody knows exactly what they're getting into out here. Like I don't, this is, these, and these are problems that may not be fixable. And so I shouldn't say problem. These are, items that are not fixable. So, I think also challenging the team of like, I just, why do we do, X? Why do we do this? And the only answer that's the wrong answer is because that's how we've always done it.
Well, that's true in everything. Yeah.
And so, and that leads into a bunch of stuff where, like, again, infrastructure is boring. If infrastructure is done right, you never notice it, And so, but when you look at the customer experience coming in and having to wait just to get to the toll to be able to start setting up your camp, whether that was 6, 8, 12 hours in the past. And I'm like, we just have to fix that. I don't, however we're going to do it, we got to figure out how to fix that. So we went down the rabbit hole on both exterior and interior, on how we bring cars onto the site, but also how we park them. It's like, get a more efficient parking plan and a clearer plan that way. And again, it's all, how do we get the fans set up in their camp and enjoying the experience that we've worked so hard to build, versus having somebody waiting in traffic for that long.
But how much how much did it weigh in, Tuba? Because I mean, we've heard those stories. People say, I waited in line 14 hours and then I'm still going back. I love it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't, there aren't too many businesses that can say that.
I'll tell you though, that was wearing off.
It was wearing off.
I was going to say, and with COVID, that, there's suddenly a shift of like, all of a sudden, people forgot. If I could take a time machine back and we could drive around the site on a golf cart in 2015 and then come back to today, I think it would be, I think it would be stark, and again, that doesn't mean 2015 was any lesser of an event than what we do this year, but, things like drainage, the hurricane year in 2021, that was one that really just brought things to a front where we need to better position ourselves to be able to, I don't know that we could take a direct hit from a hurricane, but like if it's a wet, rainy year, we had to make sure that, the farm is ready for people and safe for people. And so that's where roads and, the main stage field, that used to flood. I don't know if you guys remember that. Like when it would rain hard, like it would flood. And so
the walk around from which to what was treacherous.
Yeah.
So they put that bridge in for years. That was like that, the runoff and everything else. Sure. And yeah, it just I'm assuming I wanted to get to the 21 year a little bit. We can do that a little bit later potentially, but I'm sure you found some exposure of drainage that you wouldn't have seen, because generally we're pretty dry in June. I mean, usually it's pretty dry. I mean, we've had some bad ones occasionally, but yeah, I bet that was eye-opening. From C3 Presents, it is Tim Tuba Smith on the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio. And coming up, who is a genius behind the idea of the Squarch anyway? Hello, Bonnaroovians, and thank you for listening to Bonnaroo Radio on 101.5 FM, Manchester, Tennessee. My name is Bryan Stone, the co-host, along with Barry Corder of the What Podcast. Our producer and show contributor is Russ Jackson. You likely know him better as Lord Taco, at the What Podcast on all social media. All right. So I need you guys and gals to listen to me very closely here for just a moment. All right. You read, hear, and see hyped up things all the time, targeted advertising coming after you left and right, everything telling you it's the greatest thing ever and you must stop and listen and watch and buy and everything else. And here comes another one. I am asking you to trust me. I know you have so many things to do today. I know that time is of the essence, and this weekend will blaze right on past with time warp speed. Trust me, I understand this. But if you have 20 minutes to continue listening to this radio station, 101.5 FM in Manchester, Tennessee, Bonnaroo Radio, I believe that you will be very happy that you have done so. In less than 10 minutes, you will hear from one of the early organizers and how this festival came together starting in the year 2001. And right now, you will hear the conclusion of our interview with Tim Tuba Smith, the Director of Festivals and Strategic Initiatives for C3 Presents. And he tells you the story of how the Squarch came to be, as it was his idea. This is the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio.
Part of the reason, Tuba, we even know who you are is because you spoke at to a group of students last year and mentioned the Squarch, because one of the students said, what is a lesson that you've learned?
Yeah, excellent answer, by the way, that day.
And yeah, it was an outstanding answer, and you copped to it. You were a big part of the whole. I'll let you tell the story, but I bring it up not because it's funny and I'm being snide, but it illustrates to me just how much this festival means to people and how something like an arch can symbolize so many things to so many people, right? From a fan point of view, from our point of view, from your point of view, it's really pretty important. So, I mean, we can ask questions, or you can go ahead and relate your involvement in it.
Yeah, can you just kind of timeline that one a little bit? I mean, we all mostly know.
I could try to resurrect the timelines there, but
I'd like to know that.
One of the things that we were looking at was, just like how do we improve? What can we kind of pour gas on the fire and try to augment or improve with the festival. And the arch was one that's, I'm not going to tell you guys anything you don't already know, that the arch is iconic to Bonnaroo. It gets redesigned every year, but the reality that it set in when I started kind of poking my head under the hood a little bit as I went and, I went and stood inside the thing and
there's a door you could have gone in the old wood arch. I've been in there. Yes. Probably wasn't allowed, but I was there.
I went and stood inside the thing, and the entire thing's made of wood, and it's been outdoors in Middle Tennessee for 20 years
minimum.
And a stiff breeze comes and you can hear the thing creak, and I'm like, this is just I can't look past this. And so we looked at it and it's like, this is not safe.
How far out was this from the show? Was this months out, 6 months out, a year out?
I think we started talking about it. It was one that we're like, how do we bring the arch into today?
Because the pictures that surfaced on Reddit of it on fire when it was being burned, that everybody lost their shit about, that was getting pretty close to showtime, and it was like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
They're burning down the farm.
Well, I thought was that. I'm losing the timeline.
I want to say 6 weeks. It was pretty darn close.
Yeah, it was. It might have been. I think it was farther out than that. It was a couple months, but I think
that's still close.
Too close. And so, the reality was like, okay, well, this thing's not safe. What's the best way to take it down? How do we deconstruct it? And it's like, well, it's made of. It's tinder. It's tinder. And
it's
so we were
easy.
Like, and that's a miss on our part of just like, look, we'll burn it. The thing was on the ground in less than 10 minutes.
Yeah, who's the mole that took the picture with you guys and sent it off to Reddit?
Look, it's when there's smoke, there's fire. You can see it from a long ways away, right? So,
I probably know the guy, actually.
So that happened. And then, and the whole intent was like, how do we bring in an arch? We want to have a video component to it. We want to make it more immersive. We want to, just bring this to life. And as we were working through the structure side of that, like it started becoming apparent that it's like, we're out of time to be able to make this fabrication, to do it right, and so, and then, I was like, look, I can come up with the design, but with off the shelf parts. And that's really what everybody ended up seeing is just, and the intent with that, again, this is all with the best of intentions. This was, we wanted to really do something that was going to improve this for the fans. And so I was like, well, look, we'll put a video screen up there that literally is bigger than the old arch, and so we could put, and then the ideas started coming of like, well, we can go and render all of the old arch designs in there. We can, like the content options are boundless, but it's also this giant black monolith out there that just, didn't resonate, and one thing that's great about Bonnaroo fans is they will let you know. And so
this is my point. And again, it's not, I don't mean it piling on. I mean, people care. It's the passion thing. That's the whole point to me.
Yeah. For me, I mean, we came in early for the media walkthrough on that Wednesday or whatever day it was, mainly because we wanted to get our eyes on the Squarch. And in the daytime at noon or whatever time we were there, boy, I know I was being a snot about it. And I was like, this is what they're doing? But later on at night, in the next 2 days, I saw it from a distance at night. And I was like, oh.
With the video screens, yeah.
With the video. Now I see what they're talking about. Now, I didn't know where you were going and to make this, incredible new LED. I mean, that thing, geez, man, what a job on the arch now. My God, it's the gorgeous,
right.
The prettiest it's ever been. But I couldn't get that far at that point. So it was a prototype. I mean, essentially not a great prototype, but it was a prototype.
Yeah.
For what your vision was eventually.
I mean, I think that, the root point here is like, we've got to be brave, the founders, Rick and Ashley and Carrie and the team, those guys, the bravery that it took to go out there in the field and do something of this scale is just crazy. And so, and that's really kind of the ethos of the, of Bonnaroo, but also the festival industry. It's like, you gotta take a leap and hope that it's something that resonates and sticks around. And so, and so how are we going to do that? How are we going to continue to move Bonnaroo, forward and evolve and make it better? And so, that was I think with that in mind, like the Squarch was a miss, but I think it's also one that like now can live in Bonnaroo lore, so there's, and that's, that's not the only miss that we and I have had with Bonnaroo, but I think the list of things that we've tried and executed to improve the festival is way longer than the misses.
I could not agree anymore with that statement. He is Tim Tuba Smith, Director of Festivals and Strategic Initiatives for C3 Presents, the producers of Bonnaroo. My name is Bryan Stone, co-host of the What Podcast, along with Barry Corder, and produced and made all look very cool on social media by Russ Jackson. For the indoctrinated, you know him better as Lord Taco. Our next guest is named Ken Weinstein. He has been on the farm every year since 2002. As a matter of fact, he was a part of the initial discussions with the founders of the festival back in 2001 as his fledgling company, Big Hassle Media, did the first publicity for Bonnaroo back in 2002. Some years ago, Ken sat down with all of us at Camp Nut Butter to tell us the story of how Bonnaroo became a thing. This is the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio.
I get a call from Rick Farman and Jonathan Mayers, who were both New York guys, and I'm in New York. And they came up, they reached out to me, and they're like, hey, we work with Galactic now, and you work with the All-Stars, and we'd like to talk to you about doing their press. We're going to be in New York next week. Let's have lunch. So this is in 2001. And so we met at a restaurant called Communion on Broadway and 22nd Street. And we were having a great lunch. At the very end of the lunch, it was really a fun lunch. We were really clearly clicking. It was just, we're all like, no, we all get along. It's great. We still do.
Right.
But at the end of the lunch, they go, hey, so just throwing it out there. We're thinking of starting this summer festival. We don't know what it's called yet. We don't know where it's going to be held. But you seem pretty cool. Like, would you maybe want to work with us on it? And I'm like, I've never done an event before. I've never worked on any event PR before. And they said, well, we've never thrown an event before. And I'm like, well, cool, let's do it together. They're like, done. So I have a file on my computer. It's called Proposals, where I keep all my proposals, and I do it by year. And in 2001, there's still a proposal in my computer that says Summer Festival.
It's the 2001 part that's blowing my mind.
Yeah.
So y'all put this together in a year.
They had already been working on it.
Okay.
PR is usually the last part of the puzzle.
Okay.
It's kind of like the health permit. So they were ready to think about PR at that time. Shortly thereafter, we were in a email chain about what should we name this thing, and eventually they tell me where it's being held. Next thing you know, we're announcing it and putting it on sale, and it sold out in 16 days.
right, with no...
And we're like, what?
Didn't spend a penny, right?
No,
except for
no
you, I
traditional.
Must have
assume.
been a really good PR firm.
Right. No, see, that's the thing. No traditional advertising.
Yeah.
And then they put up another 10,000 tickets, and we sold out in a day. Wow. So in 17 days, at that time, we sold out, I want to say, 60,000 tickets. And then we sold out the next 10,000, so we were 70K that first year. The thing about that time period is, and it's hard for a lot of people to relate to this, but the internet was just kind of coming around, and it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. What we have to realize, of course, is that Fish, before there's even a Bonnaroo 1, has had 6 festivals. It's thrown 6 festivals with no ecosystem to support it. That was Fish's brainchild, and they're like, let's do this. We think we can make this happen. And Clifford Ball is born out of nothing. Just a random thought, but a fairly good sense that this could work because people like to gather and people like to commune.
Right.
And like-minded, let's bring together people who love live music, who love to be around each other and support each other. And there was a community after 6 Fish festivals. There was a community that AC Entertainment and Superfly knew that they could tap into. And there was also, by the way, a staff that had thrown these Fish festivals. There was an idea that this thing could potentially work. What we have to, again, realize, there's not really any internet. The internet's not what it is today.
Right.
So word of mouth. Bands and fans at that point in time were talking and in ways and speeds unknown to mankind before. And it was rapid fire. It was wildfire. Just like as soon as people found out about it, one told the other, told the other, told the other. There were all these chat rooms, quote unquote. That's what, yeah. You know what I'm talking about? Chat rooms. Pre-Reddit, PR, pre-Reddit. It was an incredible thing to behold. And right now I'm closing my eyes. I am on the main stage, Trey Anastasio, day 1, and I'm standing with the partners, Ashley Capps and the 4 Superfly guys, Rick Farman, Rich Goodstone, Jonathan Mayers, and Kerry Black. And they are holding up a glass of wine, and we're looking out.
Wow.
We're looking out on the main stage. Trey's about to go on, and it's like, good Lord, what have we built? And it was a big holy shit moment. And I'm getting chills thinking about it right now because it was seriously like, oh my God.
Oh my God, indeed. Ken Weinstein, our guest on the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio, telling us the origin story of this wonderful festival. Only about 5 minutes left of our discussion with Ken Weinstein, the founder of Big Hassle Media, who's been doing publicity for Bonnaroo since the very beginning. And what has been discussed ad nauseum over the course of the last 2.5 decades by multiple generations is Bonnaroo is not what it used to be. And my quick response to that is nothing ever is. But in this case, from the jump, that was never supposed to be the idea. That was never the blueprint, to be the same thing indefinitely. Recorded live to tape, as I like to say, at Camp Nut Butter in 2019. This is the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio.
Something that Ashley has said to me over the years, and to clear something up, you still hear people say it's not what it used to be. You know, it started as a jam band and it changed. But he has always said, you guys went that route because those folks would camp. The idea was to start there and then build it into basically what it's become, right? I don't think you had the vision then of what it is today, but you knew you wanted to broaden it and make it beyond.
You can't really be a jam band festival every single year
Exactly.
and have much sustainability. I wouldn't think from the level that it's gotten to now. I mean, if it was just Fish and Trey and Panic every year, I'd be here. But I don't know about everybody else.
Right.
That's all that counts, baby.
He doesn't spend any money in Soberoo, so I don't know how much it counts.
No T-shirts, nothing.
Couple dollars.
The point I'd like to take out of that, what's really incredible about Bonnaroo is its fans, and we could not be here without them. They are the most special people. They are full of open-heartedness and love and kindness, and they are the most open-minded
Right.
musical fan base since like the days of the Fillmore East and the Fillmore West. I mean, when Santana was playing with Miles Davis, and you know, it was rock and jazz, but it wasn't called anything. It was just good music. And the thing is that the Bonnaroo fan base, yes, grew up with Fish and the Dead, sure, but they also grew up with reggae. They also grew up with punk rock. They also grew up with indie rock. They also grew up with world music. They grew up with hip hop. They like it all. So yeah, it was a jam band festival because that was a touchstone that was for connection, but that was only tapping a part of their personality. There was other shit in their heads that was a part of it. So Bonnaroo grew out of their love of great music. It didn't have to be tied to jam band only.
So when you guys are coming up with like brand values and you're saying Bonnaroo is about this, was that instilled before Bonnaroo happened and before the fans existed, or did the fans sort of drive the brand values that you now have today?
I think I would say it's a bit of a mixture. I would say starting with year one, including my walk through Soberoo this weekend, like I am consistently blown away by these fans I meet. I mean, I'm wearing a walkie-talkie. I've got this laminate. I look like a narc. Clearly, I'm not a fan. I work here. I get high fives and smiles and thank yous, and that has happened since year one. And I'm always blown away by the campgrounds, and I think that we responded to who the fans are in their hearts, but we also helped create guidelines, which they do inspire for sure. You know, Bonnaroo, a lot of festivals are like 4 days and out. They're like, they create for 4 days and out. Right. Bonnaroo thinks 365. That's right.
That's why we're here.
Bonnaroo's a state of mind.
We're a total
Bonnaroo's
example.
a way of life. So this Bonnarovian code came out of, it's kind of like the 10 Commandments. It's like, this is something that it's how you get along on the farm. This is how you get along in life. But we were certainly inspired by that connection the fans had. These were my first impression when I came here, that in 2002, was like, these are professional concert goers, professional campers, professional festival lovers. They already knew there was this connectivity and ecosystem, which I said that word before, but like there was this like way they were already communing. We tapped into that, expanded on it, and sort of tried to cement it.
I've done this job 30 years. And then there had become a sameness. It just felt the same old thing. After about the second Bonnaroo, it was like, now I remember why I like music. And now I remember why I like live music. And wow, there's all these different things, as you said. I don't have to just like one thing. There's all kinds of good music and all these. And I really give this festival a lot of the credit for that. And so I'm wondering, from your point, professionally, do you feel that as well?
Well, yeah, I do feel that way. And I think the reason why you feel that way is because the founders, organizers of this festival are first and foremost music fans, and they created a party that they themselves would want to attend. They've got great taste, and they've got the most honorable of spirits in terms of supporting the arts, really. Yeah, what you feel from that is you're out. We're all out till 3-4 in the morning. Those guys, the founders of this festival, they're in there with us. They're out there. I went to see Kukugaku Moyo. 3 of the festival founders were in the audience with me.
Right.
That's really 12:30 first band on. They're out there.
Right.
They're in this. They want it. They love it.
I can still
they
remember
created something
sitting
they love
at Camp
and they
Nut
continue
Butter
to love.
and listening to Ken tell this story of the origins of Bonnaroo and how thrilling it was to hear it from somebody who was so close, walking lockstep with the 4 original organizers and founders of Bonnaroo. He is Ken Weinstein, the founder of Big Hassle Media, who is still PR for this festival 24 years later. My name is Bryan Stone, co-host of the What Podcast, along with Barry Corder, along with executive producer Russ Jackson, a.k.a. Lord Taco. You are listening to Bonnaroo Radio. Bonnaroo! Hello, everybody, whether you're at the festival right now or somewhere in Middle Tennessee, listening to 101.5 Bonnaroo Radio Takeover of Rooster FM, or possibly just listening online wherever your travels are taking you, we thank you all the same. For this segment of the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio, we talk to Patrick Whelan, the founder of Harmonium, and more specifically to this festival, Soberoo. Yes, people actually do go to Bonnaroo and stay sober. And if you need support while you're there, Patrick and his team at Soberoo have been offering that for nearly a quarter century. This is the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio.
Well, I've been to every Bonnaroo, so we had a table. Well, I've been to every Bonnaroo, so we had a table with the first Bonnaroo just organically. We just took over a corner of a coffee shop right on one of the main drags that goes to the right of the witch stage. And that coffee shop operator wasn't super thrilled we were there, but there was about 40 of us that came to see, the dead guys, Panic Fish, and we were all on the internet doing our own thing with those bands. And because they were all at Bonnaroo, we all showed up together and we just hung out together. We wanted to see the music, but we also wanted to fellowship together. We've done that at the corner for 3 or 4 years until there was an invitation to, take it to a different level. But pretty much been there every year doing this thing.
All right, there's got a lot that we're going to unpack in this conversation, and I'm just going to say a few things and then kind of try to get out of the way. But the reason this is important is because especially Bonnaroo has this image of being this. I mean, I can't tell you how many people ask me, so you just go up there and just get drunk and get high and spend your whole week stoned, drunk, whatever, and for a week, and maybe some people do, but in my case, I'm like, no, I don't do any of that, because the last thing I want to be is hungover in a porta potty on the farm.
Or potentially sick in any way, or
Correct.
something like, anything that could really derail your time.
But that is the image, right? I mean, let's just go ahead and put it out there. That is the image. So it's important for this festival in particular that we have something called Soberoo. That's a name that's there on purpose. But it's more than that. You hit on it. You want to see the music. You want to remember the music. You want to see the bands. You want to have the same, experience that everyone else does, but you want to do it a different way. So I'm going to go ahead and ask, and then I know Bryan has got a bunch of questions, and I'm sure Russ does as well, but explain Soberoo, explain this. You don't just do it at this festival, right? It's a national type of thing. So explain what you guys do.
So we're a fan-facing public installation in the middle of Planet Roo now. They've moved us a couple of times, but that public-facing installation, we're just interacting with fans that walk by, and we explain what we are, which is really just a group of fans that choose to come to Bonnaroo without using drugs or alcohol. We're not affiliated with the festival, any bands in particular. We're not affiliated with any 12-step recovery program. We want to make that clear. We're not there to, promote anything. We're just providing a safe space. It's a harbor for people that are there choosing not to drink or use. Some are straight edge. Most are in recovery from addiction or alcoholism, but we've had expectant mothers. We've had designated drivers at certain events, people that pop in that are just tired of their friends that have had too much The nice thing is we've got seats and we've got shade or dry space if they want to come in and hang out. So we're not just keeping ourselves as a little area off to the side. We open it up as a lounge for people to come in, and we'll have recovery style meetings 4 a day at Bonnaroo at noon, 3, 6, and at midnight. And it has grown at Bonnaroo. We also have a campground out in group camping, and we have a tent out there, and we'll have a sunrise meeting. So that makes a 5th meeting that we manage. And we have a large 40 by 40 space that they give us, which is over by where the cinema used to be. I think that's called the Who stage now, but it's over in that far corner back behind the fence. And they let us have access to take people back there from a, kind of an anonymity standpoint. So the idea is just support for people that come. If 10% of the public population are in recovery, then 10% of 60,000 people are maybe at that festival that are also, in recovery or affected by somebody whose addiction or alcoholism has, taken them to another fellowship that they want to, borrow time with us.
Well, Patrick, take me back to the beginning since you've been there since then. That's a good place to start, the beginning. You said from the jump, this is what you were doing. Just to pry personally a little bit, had you had life experiences that led you to believe that this was important going into a bizarre new concept like Bonnaroo in 2002? How did that launch that quickly that back then 24 or 22 years ago?
I'll take a step even back before Bonnaroo time. Me and a couple of other fellows started this sober group that follows around widespread panic called the Gateway. And that was very organic. That was similar to the Wharf Rats that followed around the Grateful Dead. I got into recovery back in 97. After 6 months, I thought my life was over. I thought my life was over when Jerry Garcia died, and then I spiraled for several years into bad addiction and alcoholism. Got into recovery, and then in the summer of 98, I'm going to Telluride Bluegrass stuff. So it was 25th anniversary, and I went out there without any support, but I went out there with some other friends that I'd had, that used and drank and smoked and did all that stuff. And we had a good time, but I went to a meeting in town that day, and I met some people that I'm still friends with to this very day. Just happened to run into folks that are in the industry or major fans that are always on the road touring with people. So I, sort of lucked into that little group of people. Time went by, following bands, still wanted to go see live music. Bonnaroo gets announced, and we all decide we're going to go. And I live in Louisville. I'm 3-hour drive away. It's easy for me to get there. And we just showed up. We started to kind of, how do you find each other? We found each other, and we organized loosely. Over the course of going back 3-4 years, it was probably 2026. We were sitting under a tree, on the only tree maybe in Soberoo that we could find, and we had a little meeting. And if you've ever seen one, you know what it looks like.
Manchester, Tennessee, talking about the origins of Soberoo and those early days. We'll fast forward to 2006, and Patrick and his group Soberoo were approached by Bonnaroo officials themselves. This is the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio.
Chris Crowell drove up on her little golf cart. She was director of operations. Chris Crowell drove up on her little golf cart. She was director of operations in the field at the time, and she's like, what are y'all doing? I was like, oh my God, we are in trouble over here. I told her, I said, this is what we're doing. She goes, okay. She goes, here's my card. I want you to call me next week. And
wow. So
I got on a call with her, and she said, so I want to get you on another call with some other people. I was thinking, are there going to be lawyers on this call? Is this like a cease and desist? Don't come back to our festival.
You're messing up the cell job here, man.
Your faces are on a wall somewhere, right?
Jack Daniels is over here not looking very proud at what you're doing. So I did not know what to expect, but Rick Farming was on the call.
Nice.
Yeah, I know that name.
Yeah.
A gentleman named John DeRowan was on that call, and he was the head of the mounted police, the horseback mounted police. He was from Texas, but he was Long time in
real
recovery.
quick for people listening, Rick Farman is one of the co-founders. He's with Superfly. So, yeah, that's a big deal. I just want to make sure everybody listening knows that.
Yeah, I got on the call and I was just like, oh, what's going on here? And then a lady who was president of Music Cares was on the call, and then Chris, who put it all together. And they asked similar questions to what you just asked, Brian. But I told him what we were doing, and Rick said, how many people do you think? And I said, I bet you there's been 100 people come by our space and hang out with us that are in recovery. And I think he said something along the line. So you're helping me sell 100 tickets every year to my festival. And I said, Rick, yes, I am. And he said, well, what can we do to help you out?
Nice.
And
that is super cool to hear, because to what Barry kind of led with is the perception that everybody just goes to Bonnaroo to get all effed up. At first, it's true. That was pretty true. That was pretty true in 2 and 3 and 4. And after the state patrol started to crack down very hard in those early years, as you're on your way, they were going to leave you alone once you got to Bonnaroo. It was this magical place where police didn't exist, but they existed everywhere else, right. And they were going to get you if they could. So the thought process, I was 22 the very first year. So a child. So the new strategy was, you don't bring your drugs, you get them when you get to Bonnaroo. You let everybody else do the heavy lifting. Right. And you would walk down the unofficial, official Shakedown Street, and you would buy, name it. I'm not going crazy in the gutter here, but what you needed, you could find. That's not a thing anymore, and it hasn't been for a while. Yeah, sure, somebody's got something somewhere, but not the way it used to be. I wonder, maybe you have a feeling on this. Did they want to maybe try to keep that? Maybe even if it wasn't reality to everybody, the perception, do you feel like that was something they maybe were wanting to get away from? Or did they just see a good organization that they thought, this can also bring us sales and notoriety in that world? What do you think to that?
That's a great question. I think it's a little bit of both. I think they certainly knew they'd get some good publicity if they ever wanted to point somebody to interview somebody at our booth. And here comes Fox News affiliate from Nashville. They're coming by and they want to talk to you about what. And so that would happen. But also, they're building a city. Every festival has a city. You have to have ways to go to the bathroom, ways to feed people, ways to keep them hydrated, medical staff. And if you're doing a city, you've got people that are going to need the services that we were providing. So I think they just wanted naturally to incorporate that. There's a lot of other nonprofits doing good work at Planet Roo. They've been there for long stretches of time. And they, why would this not be naturally incorporated into one of those, into that section?
This is the kind of thing that I think Bonnaroo has done very well. Pay attention. Yeah. See an opportunity for something, and how can we help and make it better? One
step ahead of trends.
Yeah.
Or at least lockstep with trends. And while at that time, I'm not going to even begin to pretend that going to shows sober was a trend. It wasn't.
No.
It was foreign as all foreign subjects could be. We can maybe get to this. These days, that's different.
Yeah.
And so I think leaning into that early just solidifies that Bonnaroo stays ahead of the curve.
And Brian, I'm going to ask you, and Brian has been very open and willing to talk about his sobriety. It's you're a couple of weeks past a year now. Congratulations, first of all. So both of you are the perfect people, in my opinion, to ask this question as an outsider, if that's the right word, because I still drink way more than I should. How is seeing the Grateful Dead, Fish, Panic different sober for both of you?
This is a great question. I have an answer for it. Patrick, I want you to go first. Here on Bonnaroo Radio. A little context quickly before we wrap up this segment. My name is Bryan Stone. I'm the co-host of the What Podcast. And in February of 2023, I quit a lifelong drinking habit. It was one of the hardest things that I've ever done in my life and one of the best decisions I've ever made. And I owe my life to countless people who helped make it possible. And even though my counselors basically begged me not to go to Bonnaroo, I wasn't going to listen. I was going to go. And that was a very strange year. And I can't tell you how important and meaningful it was to meet and then build a relationship with Patrick Whelan and many of his colleagues from Soberoo. This is the conclusion of our conversation with Patrick from Soberoo from the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio.
The answer that everybody hears, I remember the music. The answer that everybody hears, I remember the music. The next day, I remember what happened. I remember the set list. I remember who I sat with, and I remember most of the events. But it gets me high. Music has always gotten me high. My first concert that I bought a ticket for when I was in high school was like Prince, and it wasn't 1999. It was Controversy. It was like 1981, and I was just loved going to see live music and just couldn't get enough of it. And then I thought it was enhanced by my drinking and my using, and then I lost my way through that addiction, and then I've gotten off and I'm on the other side. And I love the environment around live music, getting in past the ticket takers and the metal detectors and getting to the seats and seeing people and socializing around it. And then boom, it's just that rush of just that first note and we're off and running. And it's an adrenaline that, I don't need, drugs and alcohol for. And I did not know that in active addiction because all I knew was I needed another drink.
My answer is about half of that. And when it comes specifically to the jam band community, because I am the same way to your point, Patrick, of yes, the fun, the build up, the excitement, the getting through the metal detectors, hey, we're almost there, or getting through the arch, we're almost there. And you feel it. It's just like, oh, here we go. Like that's still there. That didn't have anything to do with drugs. I love the big event. But when it comes specifically to the jam band community, and when I say followed, I mentioned that, I think I said that word, widespread panic. That's not exactly accurate. But I went to a damn lot of shows. If they were between 200 miles of where I live here in Tennessee, I was there. I didn't go to, Ohio to go see Panic usually. So it wasn't.
I saw a flat-footed floozy in Chattanooga that I'll never forget.
All right. Memorial Auditorium, if I were to guess. But to me, that music, that genre, which I still love, still cherish, went and saw Sam Holt, who I won't bore everybody with who he is, but he worked with Panic, and he did a Panic cover on here locally on Friday and loved it. But there is a certain part of it that is missing for me. That music is designed, for me, to be a little spaced. I can't get spaced organically to the place that music usually goes. The stripped down rock and, because in the end, this stuff is rock and roll. It's blues based rock and roll that's been turned into a different sound into the 21st century. And there's portions of it, primarily just the jam, improvising and the drums and the space with the Dead and these things. I get bored a lot easier than I used to. And that's not, I don't mean that in any negative way. You can fix boredom. You're bored? Fix boredom. You can do that if you want to. It has affected me a little bit. I still love Widespread Panic with all my heart. Not super excited about going to a 2.5 hour show anymore. And it primarily, I told this to a guy, a huge Panic guy on Friday. We were talking shortly. It's kind of loud. And I was like, man, I can't stand to be around drunk people. I can't stand around people be like, hey, man, let me tell you about this thing. But normally I'd be like, oh, my God, let me tell you about this thing. That is difficult for me. Granted, you've got a lot under your belt, Patrick, and just amazing props to you in doing that for how long you have. I'm working on a year and, a month and a half. That's really not that long, actually. So I'm still kind of trying to work my way into that, but I'm forcing my way in. But I'd be lying if I didn't say drugs and alcohol made some of that music better. Not that the music wasn't good and it needed elevation, just the setting itself, it was enhanced a little bit. And maybe that's something I'm still trying to grow out of. I don't know. What do you think?
First of all, can I just what a great honest answer, and thank you for that. Seriously, that's a great answer.
But yeah, Patrick, what do you think? I mean, have you've been around a lot of people who've been doing this for 1 month, for 1 year, for 6 months, for 6 years. What are your experiences and your conversations with people who might be saying the same thing?
Yeah, I was a hallway dancer at Grateful Dead concert. I was never front row.
I don't dance in the hallway anymore.
Yeah, I was a hallway spinner out of it, and I loved it as well. I loved that energy, and always be like the same next show, same pocket of people, and that.
Yeah.
I got to be friends with a lot of them. They're still out there. They are still out. We're just gray now, we're bald, but we're still out there. Spinning to concerts at shows, and I just love that energy that I got, because I'm not a seat taker. I'm not a ticket, go to my seat and sit there and necessarily watch the music. I'm going to the pockets of the day, and they're in the like the one show at a time community. The hardest, heaviest dancers are in that community, and we migrate together. We'll go take over an entire section over the Portal 117. It's all the kids with the stickers on. And the next portal's the rolling alley where everybody's rolling their head off. But we're over here and we mix with them, and we laugh, and we're high-fiving, and nobody can tell that we're not the ones that are all messed up. That to me is like been the lifesaver, because I think without it, I'd be like, part of me's dead and I can't get it back. The hope is it comes back and you get it back. It's all alive and it gets brought back. Seeing live music does it for me, but that energy around being in the moment, dancing with people, and like set break, dripping wet, just woohoo, can't put a price on it, and then still sober.
Podcast on 101.5 FM Bonnaroo Radio. You are listening to the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio, 101.5 FM Manchester, Tennessee. Hello, Bonnaroo. Hopefully you're having a great weekend. Regardless of where you're finding the show, we thank you so much for sampling the programming over the weekend. My name is Bryan Stone, along with Barry Corder and Lord Taco, as we call him. We are the What Podcast. And if we're not at Bonnaroo, there's a good chance we are looking at the next chance we can get to the Caverns in Grundy County on the backside, the Nashville side of Monteagle Mountain. Well, all three of us were there recording a show before last year's one-day-aroo. Barry and I took it back to the house as it was getting close to Bonnaroo weekend. Lord Taco stuck around, and this guy showed up. Dancing Man Chris. Whether you know it or not, you have likely seen him on the farm or somewhere else at a music festival, and his story is wild. This is the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio.
This is the What Podcast, and I'm standing here. We're at the Cavern. This is the What Podcast, and I'm standing here. We're at the Caverns in Grundy County, Tennessee, and I'm here with somebody you've probably seen at Bonnaroo.
Caverns, as a matter of fact, in the mountains here. Yeah.
It is beautiful. This is Dancing Chris. Is that what you're known as? Or?
The Dancing Man, and the people that have met me, I'm Chris. Yeah, pretty much how it works.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I know I've seen you at Bonnaroo.
Except I went to Legend Valley one year, and there's like 5,000 people calling me Chris. I'm like, did something just drop on Instagram or something? Because not everybody, I haven't met everybody here. So, but yeah.
You've probably gone viral at least once or twice.
Well, in this occupation, you better accept being called the Dancing Man, because that's what they're going to call you anyway. So you better be good with it. I'm
yeah. Well, so tell us about yourself. You've got a lot of wristbands on. You've been to multiple Bonnaroos, multiple festivals. This isn't even half of it, right?
Oh, no, this is just like, I don't know if the right word is a compilation. It's, there's only one of each, and like when I go to an event for the next year, I'll take off last year's and put a new one on. But they didn't all give cloth wristbands, so this is just the last fest of each. Here's the lock-in from 2015. That was the year I did 26 music fests in a row. That I did.
26 music festivals in a row?
Well, that was just the summer. I did the rest of the year, too.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just 26 in the summer.
Well, yeah, one every weekend, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to make sure if they had a Guinness World Record or whatever, that nobody would be even foolish enough to try to outdo that.
No, I think you've got it.
Well, I got the foolishness part. Yeah, and so all I did was apply it. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Awesome. So you're going to Bonnaroo this year, right?
Yeah, they because if I don't show up, they've sort of all seen me there, and they'd all be looking in the obituary if I didn't show up. So yeah, I'll be at Bonnaroo.
Yeah, it'd be like if the arch were missing. It'd be like, where is he? You know?
Yeah, yeah.
But you're parked here. You're camping. You live full time out of your van, right?
Yeah. There's no backup. It's just me. I'm the last hippie standing. Pretty much. Yeah. I live in my van. I follow the Grateful Dead.
I think that's awesome.
Go across the country. Yeah, the Grateful Dead is still playing.
Yes, yeah. So no fixed address. You just go, and wherever you're at, that's where you're at, right?
No family behind me. No
family?
property. It's just me, and my appreciation for other human beings, and I thrive on that. And when I see when I see that, what everybody else does, they're going to work and trying to keep property and paying taxes and going to work and cleaning the gutters and doing boring shit and wasting their life scrolling on Netflix or whatever the fuck they're doing. I realize that this may be a trepidatious way to live. There's no backup. It's just me.
Yeah.
But when I see the way other people are living, I'm like, well, it's not even. I don't want to. I got kicked hard to get here. I lost everything, and it's a really, really long story, which we won't get into. But had I not been kicked out of the life I had before, 3 or 4 times I've been kicked out of my prior life, then I wouldn't be in this position. And when I compare being able to do this, go across the country and meet all these beautiful people, then I realize it's the right thing to do.
It gives you an appreciation for it after you've lost.
Well, it's sort of like I used to have old English sheepdogs, and before I was a dancer, I was known for my sheepdog. And if I go someplace and my dog was there, everybody's always asking me. And I never had him on a leash in his whole life. He was never fenced in or anything. Well, I told him he could go out after 10 o'clock, but he has to be on the step at 6 o'clock in the morning. And he did. But I knew he could be killed at any time with that. I told him about the street. He knew about the street. We looked him dead in the eye. He'd been taught that. So I trusted him. I mean, I know he's going to be out all night long, and he's looking for the ladies or whatever. He's a ladies' man. And that he's going to be crossing streets. And I knew he could get killed. He was always next to my knee when I was walking, but I know he's all night long. He's crossing streets. And I would rather let the dog run free and get killed at a young age than to sit under the couch his whole life. And that dog that dies at 5 years old, that's out, has seen the world, has seen more than the dog that lasts till 20 years old. And that's the way I see it with my life. It's the same thing. I want to embrace the unusual and take it for everything it is. And again, all I have to do is compare what everyone else is. I went through this town in Florida. It's called The Villages. And for anybody who doesn't know, bring a vomit bag before you come to The Villages, because they're all riding around in golf carts and stuff. These
I've heard of this village, the Villages. Yeah,
and I see what they're doing. They're all living in these McMansions and stuff, and it's deplorable, the materialistic way that they live. That's why we come to festivals for open-minded people. That's why we do it.
It's a good point.
Festivals are about people. They're not about music. String Cheese is here this weekend. Don't tell String Cheese. But the festivals are about a celebration about life. That's what festivals are. Where humans are an animal, and we happen to be the only animal that throws a party in celebration of life. And a music festival is a celebration about humans and their interactions and life.
It's so true, yeah.
Well, we need the music. I mean, somebody invite String Cheese. I mean, pay the band, please. Right. But it's about people. That's why we're here. It's about people who are thinking differently or doing different things.
Yeah. So tell me about the dancing. Did you just get up and start dancing at one show and then?
Well, it's just hard. I guess you guys, I mean, I have no problem explaining this. I'm a very open person. It's just like some people are going to find this somewhat bizarre, but that's just the way my life runs. Okay?
No, you bizarre?
Well, so anyway, to answer your question, I like my first girlfriend. I married my first girlfriend. And I married a stripper who got kicked out of law school. Well, after she tried to extort the married professor, she had sex with him, and he kicked her out.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
she was a very sweet individual, a real gold digger. And
on Bonnaroo Radio as Lord Taco tracked him down at the Caverns last fall. And more about that first wife and more bizarre zaniness from Dancing Man Chris. This is the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio.
Anyway, I was her third husband, and she was a sociopath, a narcissist, a drug addict, and an alcoholic, smart and vicious. And she put me in jail 9 times trying to get the name on the title to my house that was paid off.
Wow.
And when I wouldn't put her name on the title of the house, she would start beating on me, hoping I would hit her. And I would not. Mm-hmm. And she figured out, oh, well, shit, I'll just call the police. Anyway, they'll come. And he's a guy. He's going to get arrested. She'll be crying. And sure enough, that's what happened. So anyway, 10 and a half dumb years later, I divorced her. And I lost all my property, my apartment buildings, my 2 houses on the lake, my car collection, everything. And I was living in my car. And I was really happy because she used to attack me in the middle of the night. Her name is Peggy if she wants to sue me, yeah. Because the truth is the ultimate defense. And so anyway, I realized, wow, I'm still alive. She couldn't take me. I still got myself. I'm still alive, one.
Yeah.
And I still got my soul, too. And so I was so happy I started dancing. You would, too.
Yeah.
I was dancing in celebration. And if you pay attention to my dance move, most of them are in reverse. I'm still backing away from her. So what happened? What happened was I went up to the Wisconsin State Fair. And I'm just like, I just want to dance. And I started dancing. And I just never, ever stopped. In fact, that's where I got these sunglasses.
Mm-hmm. From the Wisconsin State Fair.
On a Thursday afternoon, they had all these tents out on the lot, big white tents, and I go into one tent, and the only people in the tent are me, the bartender, and the band. And of course, I'm dancing immediately. I'm just like, I'm so happy to be alive. I'm on it. Mm-hmm. And a couple songs in, the lead singer, he bends down on the stage, he picks up these sunglasses, he goes, here, put these on while you dance. And that's where these stupid ass sunglasses come from.
And you haven't taken them off since.
Well, the problem is, Russ, you can't. Because if you take them off, then everybody's asking where they are, even at 2 in the morning. Mm-hmm. And so they sort of become a part of my, I don't really want to be known for these glasses, but they're a great conversation starter, and they were meant. The band was meant.
It was meant to be.
Yeah, it was meant to. Yeah, because otherwise, yeah. So that's pretty much what started the whole dancing. I was homeless and happy to be alive, and I knew I wasn't going to stay down. I've been kicked many times in my life, and I always know that I'm going to bring myself back up.
Wow, what a story! And all right, so you've been through a lot.
Much more than that.
I'm sure there's more. But
yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody who is maybe dealing with some shit that they, like you, maybe they've gone through divorce or, lost?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Well, the answer is simple. I'd never thought of a question like that before, but the answer is simple. It's extremely simple. and this applies to your whole life, no matter what situation it is, you always have to have confidence in yourself. Because if you think you're beaten, you are. If you dare not, you don't. If you think you're going to lose, you've already lost.
That's so true, yeah.
And the difference between the person that merely survives and the person that thrives is the person that has the confidence that whatever comes in front of them, okay, you haven't seen this situation before, but you have the confidence in yourself that you're going to do it. And the inverse is horrible, because if you don't have confidence in yourself, then you get defeated. And now you start getting a scorecard in your brain that, I could lose at this. And so it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that you don't put out the effort to know you're going to win, and you send yourself down a path of losing because you've gotten used to it. I don't accept losing. I've been kicked many times, and it's taken me years to get back on my feet. The whole time I knew I was going to get back on my feet. And every single time, and this may be the advice to the people, every single time I've gotten back up, it's a lot of work, I always knew I could do it, but every single time I came back, I was in a better position than I was when I started out.
Yeah.
And I never would have gotten there had it not happened. So you have to have the confidence that whatever's situation is in front of you, that you're going to tackle it. And sure shit, you will. You will. Yeah.
That's kind of what I was looking for.
No successful person has ever doubted themselves. I'm not saying that everybody does the right thing at the right time. I make as many mistakes as any other human. But I always know that I'm going to put out as much effort, and I'm going to make sure that I do win. Because if I lose, I allow myself to lose, I've lost. I've lost the time trying, if I'm still trying. I've lost maybe whatever money I had in some project that I didn't finish or whatever. So I've lost time and money. Mm-hmm. And the alternative is stick it out, have confidence, be confident, always, never, ever, ever, don't ever doubt yourself. Nobody knows what's going on in this world. We're all different. There is no normal. We all got different DNA, and we all got different memories. Our memory banks are our experiences in life. And that's what makes people so unique and enjoyable, is that we're all different. And you can learn from every single one of them. But not one of those people is doing the right thing. There is no right thing. Yeah. And so when there's a situation in your life, don't worry about what's right or wrong. Just persevere and have confidence, because the next guy doesn't know what the fuck he's doing anyway. Don't follow them. They're not necessarily doing the wrong thing, but they're not necessarily doing the right thing either. Don't follow the other person at all. Ever. You see a majority of people doing something, gets over 50%, guaranteed. Whatever the majority of people are doing is wrong.
Well, I'd say it's worked for you. I mean, you definitely...
Whatever. Look, I used to go to work, and I'd be in rush hour traffic. And I'd say to myself, well, I must be doing the right thing, because this is what everybody else is doing. Wrong. Yeah. They're watching TV, they're wasting time on Netflix, they're whatever they're doing in their life. And
on the What Podcast, finishing up with the Dancing Man Chris.
They're missing out on the real stuff.
Don't take guidance from...
They're missing out on the real stuff.
Don't take guidance from other people. Yeah. I don't. You can't tell me what to do. What the fuck?
Yeah. All right. Well, you've obviously recognized at Bonnaroo and a bunch of other music festivals. Do people come up to you and want to dance with you? Is that all right?
That's the whole idea.
That's the whole idea. All right.
No, when I'm at a festival. First of all, I have no inhibitions. Okay, so I don't worry about what I look like. I just threw the word out of my memory. I don't have inhibitions. So, and second of all, wherever I go, because I have no inhibitions, I always have the most fun of anybody. Always. But when everybody else is having a good time, I have an even better time. We all have a better time. But I'm on top. I worked for it.
Yeah, you definitely did.
And so when I'm at a music fest, I'm on duty. I'm working. I'm acting as a backup artist for the artists that are up there playing on the stage.
Yeah. I saw you last night.
I'm the cheerleader for the band. Although String Cheese doesn't need my help. Bless their heart.
They did fine on their own.
They can make it on their own. They can get their own food and tie their own shoelaces. They're fine. But I'm there to encourage the people to let go and realize that life is really short, and that if you're not hurting anybody, you can do whatever you want. And that's what I'm trying to express through the dancing, is that life is really short. Mm-hmm. And if you're not hurting anybody, then that's what you need to be doing. Yeah. And you got to do it right now, because tomorrow will go, and next you know, your life is over. And so I go through the crowd, and I try to find people that are at the festival that didn't come, they're not dancers, or they didn't come specifically to dance. And I can tell who they are. And I will dance somewhat near them happily, thank you. And they'll see how happy I am. And they'll start to loosen up. And give me about a half an hour, and that guy or that girl will be dancing.
There you go. Yeah. So if somebody
recently, the last 3 or 4 fests I've gone to, it's my credo to dance with as many people as possible.
Okay. So if somebody sees you in a crowd, they shouldn't be too shy to come up and say, hey, talk to you, dance with you.
I have no inhibitions. I have no care in the world other than that we're at a music fest and we're here to celebrate. Let's dance and let's celebrate. I'm completely loose. I don't put out any sort of feeling that causes the other person to remain in their shell.
Okay, yeah, that's what
I draw them out. And the last couple of fests. And so I'm working the crowd the whole time. So you always see me going through there. And the last couple of fests, I've danced with more guys than I have with girls. Mm-hmm. Which, sorry, girls, but the guys can be fun too, because you didn't expect them to dance. and I'll try to pick out a couple, and what I'll do is I'll come from the side where the girl is. What you have to know is I don't pay any attention to anybody who's not dancing. You're like a tree. I'll go around you. I'll never acknowledge you're there. You're dancing, I'll see you immediately. Mm-hmm. But if you're not dancing, you can only bring me down to your level. You got to come up and meet me.
Come up to your level.
That's the whole idea. We're here to celebrate. Let's celebrate. I'm celebrating. Join me. And so what I'll do is I'll pick out a couple, and I'll come in from the side where the girl is, and she's going to expect that I dance with her. Mm-hmm. It's just the way girls are. Which we like about them. Yeah. But I'll go right past her, ignore her, and I'll stop in front of her boyfriend. And the next thing you know, her boyfriend and I have been, and I go real slow. This is not a contest. Mm-hmm. And they see how relaxed I am, and they let go. And then you look over and you see the look on the girl's face. It's like, man, I've been trying to get him to do that for the longest time.
All it took was you.
I have over 10,000 people come up to me a year.
I was going to say, you're pretty
They flood up to me. Bonnaroo, they're going to be flooding up to me.
Yeah.
And thousands per festival. And they all say the same thing. Bless their heart. And they tell me how happy I make them with the dancing.
There you go. Come say hi to Chris, and if you see him out at Bonnaroo.
Well, I put it out once, and it comes back 10,000 times.
Well, thank you so much. This has been great to meet you and talk to you, and just so happens that your camp just, down the road from me, just ran into each other.
And it just so happens that String Cheese put on this great cave jam, and they're going to be playing 2 more sets tonight.
They sure are, yeah.
That sounds dope to me.
Dancing Man Chris, tracked down by executive producer of the What Podcast, Lord Taco, at the Caverns late last year. Take my advice on this one if you're from the South. Make a trip to the Caverns. You will not be disappointed. All of us at the What Podcast agree it is our second favorite place, our second home away from home. And thank you, Dancing Man Chris, for the perfect segue, as String Cheese Incident was the headliners at Cave Jam that night. Coming up, our conversation with Kyle Hollingsworth, the keyboard player for the aforementioned String Cheese Incident. Happy Bonnaroo to you from the What Podcast and all of us at Bonnaroo Radio 101.5 FM in Manchester, Tennessee. My name is Bryan Stone, the co-host of the What Podcast, along with Barry Corder and our executive producer, Russ Jackson, a.k.a. Lord Taco. And we do this show pretty much year-round. We take a few weeks off here and there, but not all that often. And sometimes in the fall, not a lot going on, and we just start poking around all over the world of entertainment. And through our connections of working Bonnaroo all these years, we were hooked up with the keyboard player of String Cheese Incident. His name is Kyle Hollingsworth, and the story of how he became a member of Cheese is good enough. We bounce around a lot of random topics, and the Kyle Hollingsworth Band has a new record out in 2026, which you will hear about here shortly. This is Rooster Radio 101.5 FM in Manchester, Tennessee, and a Bonnaroo takeover with the What Podcast.
Where do you want to start? You want to talk about the new record? You want to talk about where do you want to start? You want to talk about the new record? You want to talk about the beer? You want to talk about past Bonnaroos?
I don't know.
Your own festival? You started your own festival. We can, where do we want to go?
You know what we could do is talk a little bit about Cheese maybe first.
Let's talk about
Cheese. Oh, yeah, please.
And then we can kind of work our way into the new album. But you guys ask me. You tell me.
I have a specific question. I can start with this if you would like, if we're starting with Cheese.
Let's do it. I got one too.
Early on, Kyle, you joined in the mid to late 90s, right?
Sounds about right. Yep.
96-ish, 97. So early on, they're the Blue String Cheese Band. And they're primarily a mostly traditional bluegrass band. And they were making the transition, I don't know when the decisions were made or how it went, but roughly in that time, 95, 96, into a more, I'll call jam-friendly, a little more outside of the traditional bluegrass box. And around that time, you find yourself moving east to west towards Colorado and Boulder. How does that come together that you are one of the very integral pieces of changing that bluegrass traditional sound into what String Cheese became then and went on to be quite well known for the next couple of decades?
Well,
I'm so glad.
Funny.
Can I jump on that one? Because that is my question too. Because about that time, if I'm correct, Grateful Dead is their own universe, right? And so
it's the further kind of thing more and all
they
that.
are
post-Jerry.
Literally their own universe. And so my question is, did you guys feel like there's this question out there about who's going to be next?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because that's what it felt like to me, is like somebody's got to replace the Grateful Dead.
Well, there's two questions there. First,
two questions.
I moved,
yes, sir.
I moved from Baltimore. I had got my jazz piano degree, and I discovered someone called Bela Fleck and the Flecktones, the Cosmic Hippo album with Howard Levy playing keys and the harmonica. And I saw the first Horde tour, and they were on that Horde tour. I was living in Maryland still. So at that point, right around that point, I had been coming out to Colorado to work on the Colorado Trail, help building it. So I decided to come out and just spend a real amount of time, maybe just a summer. And at that point, I hooked up with I already had my degree about some Liquid Sunshine or some kind of like Grateful Dead band here. And Dave Watts, who's a great drummer from the area, introduced me to Michael Kang. So Michael Kang then persuaded me to join String Cheese. Actually, my band, Dirt, at the time, opened for String Cheese. So as I joined String Cheese, it wasn't completely it was kind of out of my wheelhouse how to play bluegrass, but I had been turned on to it via Bela. It wasn't, Bela at that point wasn't super traditional, especially on that album. And then once I met Billy, I started really playing Telluride Bluegrass Festival, I started understanding the depth of the music. So we started playing around the area. We started we did this big infinity sign across the United States. We played 320 shows a year or something for the first 4 years. And then answer your question, there wasn't that, I guess there was a hole, but there's a lot of jam bands still. You think there's a lot now, but back then there was definitely a lot of jam bands. So who was going to fill that void? Fish obviously was already there. They were young, but they were definitely powerful. I've always said that there's been a East versus West, kind of like the rappers thing. East Coast was a little harder edge jam. Widespread, Fish, a little harder, New York raw, and the West Coast was like Jefferson Airplane, Grateful Dead, a little bit more trippy this. And so we kind of fell into that because of the way we were jamming. So when we went to the West Coast, we started connecting with some of that. We knew Barlow and Mountain Girl and some of the Zen Tricksters. So they kind of brought us into the fold from there. But we were definitely more in that zone. So I think we kind of got pulled into their world more so than like maybe Widespread would have been pulled into their world. I don't know if that answered everything, but that's how
it kind of did. I didn't really think about it. Bluegrass is sort of the tipping, right?
Maybe, with Jerry, right?
There's the trippy, but then there's bluegrass, and it's maybe more East Coast. Maybe. I'm trying to remember.
or I was thinking more bluegrass in the fact that Old and Away and Jerry was playing banjo, right?
Yeah, Jerry was the bluegrass guy of the band all those years, and
so
that's
maybe that was somehow worked its way, and I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I'm guessing now one of the most popular covers of any bluegrass outfit is generally Grateful Dead music. It translates so well.
Yeah.
You talked about it in a quick interview. I just did some searching around. I didn't dive too far into anything, Kyle, but you talked about when you were first moving or traveling east to tour the Eastern Seaboard-ish in that area, and thinking nobody knew who you guys were. So I'm thinking about the same time frame, late 90s. And you talked about that to me it was a different version of tapers, because I was online trading tapes. We weren't going to shows, setting up microphones and taping, but we were gathering
the taping
live
tree,
tapes and then sending them to our friends. And we were doing that all the time. 94, 5, 6, I'm 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. You found that same kind of phenomenon as you showed up to shows in the East and Boston and Massachusetts, Maine, wherever you were, and people were sitting around with cassette tapes of your shows. Could you talk about that?
That was the first, that blew me away. I mean, of course I knew about the taping tree, the generation.
Sure, but to me this feels like a new age version of the 90s version of taping.
So I knew going into when I moved to Colorado, I had all the killer cassettes from Dead in 74, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And but then we started playing with String Cheese. That went next generation and ended up bringing fans to the show for the very first time who had never seen us. We're traveling, like I said, 320 days a year, and we get to Burlington, Vermont, or Boston, and they're still selling 100 tickets. We're like, you've never even heard of the band? I said, no, my buddy sent me a tape in the mail. So yeah, the tapers thing was so part of who we became. You know, that really helped.
What was that universe like? Because it was, for us, I mean, we're so involved in the internet. I mean, we're so social media. But what you guys are talking about, it was way underground, right? I mean, it was like you could show up at a town and everybody already knew who you were. I mean, you had to be like, how? How do you even know who we are?
I mean, the tapes. I was also some tapes, but how can that be enough?
And to me, like, I was already nervous. It was my first tour with a random band with a terrible name. Like, who thought of String Cheese Incident?
Heard of the band String Cheese Incident? I thought the same thing. The hell kind of name is that? He is Kyle Hollingsworth, the keyboard player for the aforementioned band String Cheese, and he was on the What podcast last fall. This is Bonnaroo Radio. And one thing that my co-host Barry Corder and my executive producer Lord Taco can all agree on is a bad name.
That's on the record. That's on the record, but I'm not the only person who thinks that.
I gotta say, I never
understand. We have
best.
a horrible name of our podcast.
But anyway, I was like, okay, maybe I'll try this. And then we've gotten this bus and we're traveling around in an old ski bus, and I was like, man, this may or may not work out, but I'm getting paid, and it's better than like working at a shipping store in Boulder. But then we started getting there and having fans already on site. It was, that was amazing. And then, of course, you'd sign up your physical address, and we'd send you a mailer. No emailers. So at the back of the bus, we'd be like writing, John Doe, blah, 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 blah. And the next one.
No, I was one of the guys standing around trying to make sure to get my street address to my favorite bands.
Exactly.
The mail, the snail mail or whatever. That was absolutely me. It's why I find it so fascinating. Didn't know it was a cultural phenomenon across the country. I couldn't have known because AOL would only let me talk to a certain amount of people,
Did it kind of freak you out when you played Denver, and there's Bryan Stone wanting an email or an address, and then you go to like Knoxville, and there he is again? That had to be kind of creepy.
That started happening, and then I was like, okay, there's a buzz. When that started happening, when people started following us around, the first thing we did is we hired them. Boogie, Brooks.
Jesus, well, it's 25 years later. I could still use a gig.
Boogie,
he makes a good grilled cheese sandwich, apparently.
Right. Our guitar tech, Boogie Brooks Parlow, has been with us since the very beginning, and he would follow us around the country in 99, 98, and then we're like, dude, just help us. So we put a terrible job. We're going to rent a Ryder truck, and you follow us. So he started driving the Ryder truck full of, I think it was lights at that point, and then all of a sudden he's been with us probably 32 years or something, 31 years. It's been crazy.
I often ask this to a lot of newer bands getting into the jam scene because it feels like they don't want to be called a jam band, and I'm just curious as to what they think. Do you consider the music that you make with String Cheese Incident as a jam band outfit?
Yep, I've embraced it.
Good.
It is.
Because I think so. I think it is too.
And it's. I think, and we can this is a good way to kind of go into my new album. But there is a bit of everybody who has discovered and gotten famous by, or gotten discovered by, a certain genre that they want to break out and be like, man, I don't want to be in the jam band. So I think there's a little bit of people holding back on labels.
Maybe it's not because it's not as popular now. When you were getting into it, it was hot. It still has got its niche, but it's not as hot as it was when you were getting in.
Is it more about having a label or about jam band?
I think it's a label.
I
played
can
with
see that. Nobody likes to be
Tapers.
labeled.
Exactly, and then you feel like you can't do your thing. I played with Taper's Choice, which is a new band, and it's these indie rockers, a guy from Vampire Weekend and some other indie rockers, and they said, hey, what do you want to play? And we were all open to playing whatever you want to play. I was like, great, I want to play, Vampire Weekend, I want to play Death Cab for Cutie, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, no. That's what we do all the time. That we want to do the Allman Brothers and Grateful Dead. And I'm like, dude, no. When the two worlds come together, they wanted to break out of their box, and I wanted to break out of my box, but we had to figure out a way to meet in the middle. It was really interesting. So I think even those guys don't want to be.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of my questions, because you have played with so many people. How does that happen?
Well, in the bigger picture, if you're talking about like playing within String Cheese and playing with all the incredible artists we've played with, that's always been our management putting us together outside of a box. Well, not really, like Doobie Brothers, that kind of fits in our world. But we did a lot of strange collaborations, and it's usually management that puts us in that situation, and then we feel a little nervous about it, but then it always works out. Who do we play with? I'm trying to think. From the Fugees. Killing me softly with his song. Killing me
Lauryn Hill.
We did Lauryn Hill Incident.
Good pull, Ross.
And so that was like, whoa, totally different worlds. But that came together really well. Well, we think about who we play with. We play with Mike Posner, who was a DJ the night before. So it's just a matter of kind of connecting with them, a band. Like sometimes management, like I said, kind of puts us together, but it comes down to the artists speaking to each other and being like, that doesn't really work. Can we try something new? So it's a really back and forth between the artists.
And over the years is quite remarkable. That is commonplace in the music industry these days, not so much 20, 25 years ago. This is the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio. He is Kyle Hollingsworth, keyboard player for String Cheese Incident, and the Kyle Hollingsworth Band released a new record in 2026.
All right, so that leads to your new record. What was your intent? What were you, why now?
What the heck was I thinking, right?
What were you thinking? And I can't wait to ask about the song about your daughter. Like, what were you thinking? Because, I mean, that had to...
So, yeah.
That's a touchy one, man.
I'm right. She doesn't know it exists yet. So...
You heard it here first on the podcast.
So, it was... so, after I had an album called 2020, which came out, which was... I was like, this is going to be a great year, 2020. Not so much.
We all thought that.
So then I started kind of stepping back and doing some more writing. And I was going to do singles. I was like, this is fine. This is a great time. I'm not on tour. I'll just drop some singles here and there. And I did. I dropped one or two. But then as I was writing, I started seeing like the horizon of a whole album coming together. I didn't know what the album was going to be called. And I had kind of jumped around different styles, like you mentioned, a little Paul Simon, I was thinking a little Allman Brothers on a couple tunes. But then I wrote the song All We Are, which was the title track, and because I was listening a lot to Death Cab for Cutie, and like I said, it's a little bit more indie bands. And then I said, that's a great title for an album. Let's figure out a way to make all these songs kind of be the breath or just speak to all we are throughout the whole album. And it took a while. I had to kind of redo some lyrics. I had to think about how it all would tie together. And the funny thing about All We Are, it was so different that I said, okay, let's push this to the end of the album. Then my management and all the record company was like, no, that's cool and so different than what a lot of jam bands are doing and different for you. Why don't you lead with that? And I was like, that's kind of scary, but I decided in the end to try to do something out of the box. So All We Are is a little bit more longer breath. I wanted something that was sonically interesting. I wanted something with long vowels, less patter like I want to sing quickly over funk songs. I wanted long, eyes wide, like long open vowels. And then I wanted the rock in the middle. And it's not going to focus on keys. It's going to focus on songwriting more so. Yeah, so then that's kind of the scope of where the album began.
That's a lot of thought process into just some new music, and I
overthought. Yes.
No, well, I'm king of overthinking. I'm curious when you mentioned about your producers and the A&R guys or whoever it is that are in your orbit. Certainly a lot different nowadays than when Tom Petty wrote that song back in the day. I don't hear a single. But how much do you trust and rely on the people around you, producers and those types, when you're putting together an album that, let's face it, you didn't write this expecting to be #1 on the Billboard.
Exactly.
But you did write it expecting it to be liked by people who are fans of you and Cheese and all of that. How does that collaboration work?
Well, that's it. So let's talk about that. So yeah, the rest, like the first track, I was thinking that could be cool. Maybe I'll get some plays on where Vampire Weekend gets plays, or a little bit off the track, gets me noticed outside of the jam world. We were speaking of that earlier.
Yeah.
To kind of help me bridge and bring some new people in. But the rest of the album is very friendly to the Cheese fans. To answer your question, I guess I'm influenced by what they say, but I have the final say. It's different for String Cheese. When String Cheese writes an album, we all have our opinions, and then we have to fight it out for whoever's right. No, it's great to have a producer there. In this case, I was the producer for the album, so I decided what was going to happen.
It's called All We Are, and it is available now. Kyle is the 25-plus year keyboard player for String Cheese Incident. And that is all I have for you from the What Podcast on Bonnaroo Radio, 101.5 FM, Manchester, Tennessee. My name is Bryan Stone, and I have mere seconds for this close of this segment. I want to thank everybody in the Bonnaroo ethos for being who you are and doing what you do, no matter what you do and who you are. I've been coming to this festival since day one, since 2002, and it has changed my life in so many different ways. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your life. Take care of yourself and everybody around you. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this festival and listening to this programming right now. Happy Bonnaroo.